When you grow old, birthdays stop feeling special. They turn into quiet reminders of people you miss, of words you once heard, and of the silence that now fills the room. This year, on my birthday, my daughter didn't even wish me, and what she said instead broke something inside me that I never thought could break: a father's heart. The morning light slipped through the thin curtains of my small apartment. I woke up to the sound of the clock ticking, steady, cold, and familiar. It was my 72nd birthday. I smiled faintly at the thought, though there wasn't much left to smile about. I shuffled to the kitchen, made myself a cup of black coffee, and sat by the window. The air outside was crisp, and the street below was already alive. Cars passing, children walking to school, and neighbors going about their day. Life went on, as it always did, with or without me. I glanced at the framed photo on the table, my late wife, Margaret, and our daughter, Emily. The picture was taken 20 years ago at the seaside. Margaret's arm was around my shoulders, and Emily, only 6 then, was holding an ice cream cone, grinning from ear to ear. God, how those smiles used to fill this home. Now, it was just me and the quiet. By noon, I began checking my phone more often than I'd like to admit. No calls, no messages. I told myself she must be busy. New job, new friends, new priorities. Still, a small part of me kept waiting, like a child waiting for a surprise that might never come. The day drifted on. The sun began to fade, and I had already decided to heat some leftover soup for dinner when the doorbell rang. My heart skipped a beat. Could it be? I opened the door, and there she was, Emily, my only daughter. She looked tired, still in her work clothes, a small bakery box in her hand. Emily, I said softly, my voice almost breaking. You came. She gave a polite smile. I didn't forget, Dad, just couldn't stay long. She placed the box on the table. It was half empty. This leftover cake is enough for you, Dad, she said casually. Eat it all, okay? She said it as if it meant nothing. But to me it meant everything. Not because of the cake, but because of what wasn't said. When she walked to the kitchen to pour herself a glass of water, I sat there staring at the half-eaten cake. It wasn't the taste that mattered. It was the feeling that somehow I had become part of the leftovers too. That night, the apartment felt colder than usual. Emily had left after a few minutes, said she had to meet some friends for dinner. She hugged me quickly, like it was an obligation, not a gesture of warmth. I watched her leave through the window, her car headlights fading into the street until the darkness swallowed them. The clock ticked again. It always ticked, whether there was laughter in the house or not. I sat on the couch, staring at the table where that half-eaten cake still sat. I hadn't touched it. I didn't have the heart to. I leaned back and closed my eyes. Memories began to play like an old film reel. I saw a little girl, no taller than my knee, with golden curls and a toothy smile. Daddy, blow the candles with me, she used to say, jumping excitedly around the table. Margaret would laugh and hand me the knife, whispering, Make a wish, John. Back then, birthdays weren't about cake. They were about love, about being together. Now, even the candles had gone cold. I walked to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. On the fridge, a few old magnets still held up family photos. One of them was from Emily's high school graduation. She in her gown, me beside her, eyes full of pride. That was the day she said, I'll make you proud, Dad. And she did. She got a great job, moved to the city, built a life. But somewhere along the way, she forgot how much home meant to me. It's strange how life works. We raise our children to be independent, to fly high, and when they finally do, we're left staring at the empty sky, missing the noise of their wings. I sat back down and looked at the cake again. This leftover cake is enough for you, Dad. She hadn't meant to hurt me. I knew that. She was tired, living fast, just trying to manage her world. But still, those words stayed, like a quiet echo in my chest. That night, I couldn't sleep. I watched the ceiling, listening to the rain tap gently against the window. I thought about calling her, telling her I loved her, but I didn't want to sound needy. Instead, I whispered into the silence, Good night. Emily, I hope you never feel what I'm feeling tonight. Morning arrived slowly. I hadn't slept much, just drifted in and out of half-dreams where Margaret's voice still echoed through the hallway, and Emily was a child again, running to show me her drawings. When the light finally crept across the floor, I realized another day had begun. Another day exactly like the last. I brewed a cup of coffee and looked at the small box still sitting on the table. The cake inside had gone dry overnight. I thought of throwing it away, but something stopped me. It wasn't about the cake anymore. It was about what it represented, the leftovers of love, of time, of attention. Around noon, the phone rang. For a moment, my heart leapt. Maybe it was Emily calling to apologize, to say she'd been tired last night. But it wasn't her. It was Dr. Harris from the community clinic. "John, you missed your blood pressure check again." "Everything all right?" I chuckled softly. Yes. I'm fine, doctor, just forgot." He sighed. Told me to come in later that week. I promised I would, though I wasn't sure I meant it. After the call, I sat down by the window. The world outside looked the same. Children laughing on bicycles, neighbors carrying groceries, but I felt invisible among them. Age does that. You become a spectator in your own life, watching scenes you no longer play a part in. In the afternoon, I finally decided to step out for a walk. The park was damp from last night's rain. I found my usual bench under the oak tree and sat quietly. A young father was teaching his little girl to ride a bike nearby. She laughed, fell, got up again, and he clapped every time. I smiled, not because it was funny, but because I remembered being that father once. When I returned home, the phone was blinking with a missed call. Emily. My heart raced as I played the voicemail. "Hey, Dad. I'm sorry about last night. I didn't mean to sound so cold. Work's been crazy lately. I love you, okay? I'll visit again soon." Her voice trembled slightly at the end. It was a small message, but to me, it meant the world. I sat there for a long while, listening to her words again and again. Sometimes love doesn't come in grand gestures. Sometimes it comes as a late voicemail, a tired apology, a simple, "I love you," that arrives just when your heart is about to give up waiting. That night, I finally ate a small slice of that leftover cake. It wasn't sweet, but it tasted like forgiveness. A week passed after that voicemail, and the days began to feel a little lighter. I'd saved that small recording on my phone and listened to it whenever the silence in the house grew too heavy. Her words, "I love you, okay?" had become my comfort, a small flame in a room that had forgotten warmth. That Friday morning, as I sat by the window with my usual cup of coffee, I heard a knock at the door. When I opened it, there she was, Emily. But this time she wasn't wearing her office clothes. She looked different, softer somehow, like the little girl I used to know was still hiding behind her grown-up smile. "Dad," she said, stepping in carefully. "I took the day off. I wanted to spend it with you." For a second I couldn't speak. I simply nodded and gestured for her to come in. She placed a paper bag on the table. "I brought you something," she said. Inside was a fresh chocolate cake, small, simple, but new. Not leftovers, not half-eaten. The icing read, "Happy birthday, Dad. I'm sorry I missed it." I stared at the words for a long moment before my eyes blurred. She looked nervous. "I know it's late, but..." I thought maybe we could still celebrate. I smiled through the tears and said softly, "You know, sweetheart, you just gave me the best birthday gift I could ever ask for." She tilted her head. "What's that?" "A second chance," I replied. We sat together, cutting the cake slowly. She laughed when I made a mess with the frosting, and for the first time in years, the house didn't feel empty anymore. It felt alive again, filled with the same laughter that once echoed through these walls when her mother was still here. Later, as the evening sun poured through the window, Emily leaned her head on my shoulder. "Dad," she whispered, "I didn't realize how much I'd drifted away." "I'm sorry." I put my hand over hers. "That's the thing about love, Emily. It doesn't fade when people go quiet. It just waits, patiently." The clock ticked softly in the background, but this time it didn't sound lonely. It sounded like time had forgiven me, and her too. When she left that night, she promised to visit every Sunday. And she kept her word. The leftover cake from last week was gone, but something much sweeter remained, the taste of reconnection and the quiet joy of being remembered again. Because sometimes love doesn't leave forever. It just finds its way home a little late. Sometimes we don't realize how much a simple word, a small visit, or a short call can mean to someone who waits for us every single day. Life moves fast. But love, real love, waits in the quiet corners of our homes, in the hearts of those who raised us. If you still have a parent waiting for your call, don't let another day pass in silence. Because one day you'll miss their voice more than you can imagine. This was another story from Elder Tales, where memories speak, hearts listen, and every story reminds us what truly matters. Elder Tales stories, because some tales never grow old.